Selamat sore and a very good evening to our audience and panel of speakers. Welcome to Eco Business's dialogue session, Nusantara, Asia's new green capital. I'm Ruba Nakirin, Eco Business's Southeast Asia Partnerships Manager. We are Asia Pacific's leading media and intelligence organization dedicated to sustainable development and responsible business. Much progress has been made within the ESG and sustainability space in Asia Pacific and globally since we first established ourselves in 2009 as the go-to platform for news and development on these issues. As our coverage of the region continues to expand, the interconnections between the social and environmental elements of ASEAN's economy are becoming richer and more critical. This is also why eco-businesses work has grown in its scope and depth. We are proud to be hosting this important dialogue today as part of our ongoing effort to cover developing news across the region. Join us as we examine Indonesia's path towards creating a smart green hub featuring 4 Indonesian experts, each an authority in their respective fields. To kick off our session, I'd like to invite Junice Yeo, Eco Business's Executive Director, to deliver her opening address. Junice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ruba. Selamat sore. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm Junice Yu, Executive Director at Eco Business. Now, since Ruba has already kindly gave an introduction about Eco Business, I will go straight into the topic today. So the topic is certainly one that is pertinent not just to the 273 million Indonesians, but also very much for ASEAN's biggest economy. When the news of Jakarta's capital city relocation broke first time, it came with a dose of controversy. Perhaps even unsurprisingly, the critics pointed out that the process of passing the capital city bill was too rushed and there was not enough public consultation done. Now, the consultative process is critical, of course, not least because the $32 billion project is expected to have significant impact on the environment and indigenous people living in the large areas of Kalimantan. And while capital relocations like these don't happen every day, Indonesia's decision is not really unusual. In fact, fellow ASEAN neighbors, Malaysia and Myanmar, have already done so in the past 2 decades with Putrajaya and Naypyidaw administrative capitals respectively. And so many observers continue to point out that the risks and concerns are important to note. But also we need to know that there is a high level understanding that is required in this decision. Now, the strategic move to the East Kalimantan Province in Borneo is also to relieve the economic, the governance, human activities, and most pressingly, environmental burdens that Jakarta is currently bearing. And perhaps the greatest push factor in this difficult journey is the fact that North Jakarta is the fastest sinking city in the whole world today. However, if we were to counter this argument, whether or not a green city development can really be green, or even if the city is developed on existing cleared land, the impact on Kalimantan's rich biodiversity ecosystems is likely to be substantial. So the public narrative is that by President Joko Widodo and his cabinet is this: Indonesia is committed to ensure that Nusantara will be a competitive, smart city, one that is based on a green economy with a longer term vision. So from a sustainable development perspective, this long-termism is indeed an important guiding star. Public and private sectors today are like co-pilots in a cockpit flying together, both with strong interdependence to ensure that the journey with passengers on board is handled responsibly. So as such, in today's context, where climate change is becoming so significant, can Nusantara put its best foot forward as Asia's next green capital? I may not have the answer today, but together with my colleague Megan C. and Ruba Nakiran, we are very pleased to bring together some of the country's most critical thinkers to challenge the thinking around Indonesia's most exciting city development. And we hope that this important conversation will help guide decision-making as Indonesia charts its own future. Once again, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope this session serves its purpose in shaping a better understanding of the path ahead. Now over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Janice, for setting the scene of our discussion this afternoon. I am Megan C., Director of Partnerships of Ecobusiness, and I'm very honored to be your moderator today. Just as I introduce our speakers, I would like to invite our attendees to answer a poll that we have prepared for you, which we will take into the panel discussion. The poll is right there, right now. So the Jokowi administration envisions Nusantara as a sustainable city. In President Jokowi's 2020 population census speech, an ideal urban environment vision was invoked, quoting the adoption of renewable energy, mass transportation being electric and autonomous, people walking and cycling, and there being neither floods nor traffic jams. With that, the question for the audience is, name one action that is needed to realize the vision of Nusantara as a green capital. I'm going to leave that question there for a little bit for everyone to start to put their questions into the link that was shared. So as we start to see, some answers pop up on the screen, hopefully soon, it's now my great pleasure to introduce our panel of distinguished speakers this afternoon. They are Winarno Junadi, President and Board Member of an Indonesian Global Compact Network, and also President Commissioner of PT Rajawali Corporation, Dr. Jessica Hanafi, Founder and Executive Director of PT Lifecycle Indonesia, Dr. Iksan, Circular Economy and Renewable Energy Professor, Business Advisor of A-Wing Group, and Pak Hendrikus Andy Simar Mata, President of the Indonesian Association of Urban and Regional Planners. Thank you, speakers, for taking the time to be with us virtually today. As I see answers kind of pop up on the screen right now, and in case you don't know how this goes, the bigger a word is, the more answers are being put to that same phrase or word. So I see there a very big one, green infrastructure. I see some sustainable energy, excellent public transport. So we'll just let this go on for a little bit more. And I would love for the audience to stay very engaged throughout the conversation using the chat function as well. We will also be having a Q&A session with our speakers later. So please do type your questions into the chat box. And if you are sharing about the dialogue on your networks, please do use the hashtags EB Conversations and also EcoBusiness as well. So with that, I'd like to take the first question to all the speakers. In your opinion, what should be the government's top priority in implementing the move of the capital to Nusantara? I'm going to pass this time to Dr. Jessica to share her views on this question.
Hi, Megan. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Interesting question. Yeah. What is the top priority? I think in addition to the physical infrastructure preparation that I think is already in progress, everybody's already think about that. I think one of the important issues is also mental preparation, for the move, whether it is for the people from Jakarta, the government officials, and also the people in Kalimantan is really required, because they will have a lot of visitors, a lot of not only visitors, actually migration, and that would need some adjustment. We need to have that kind of perspective, how accepted the people who are coming from Java, maybe from Jakarta mostly, to Kalimantan. So I think that is something that the government need to think about as well, because it can create some difficulties as well if it's not properly prepared. I think that's my take on this, because I think the others would go through the infrastructure and everything, and it seems from the plan for the Nusantara, many aspects of the green capital, integrated sustainable capital is already on top of mind from everybody.
Thank you so much for your response, Dr. Jessica. I'm going to move on to Dr. Iksan.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Good evening, all. I think from my perspective, the most important thing that the government need to do is the vision. You need to start with the same visions, and everybody in the stakeholders should be able to drive that visions to achieve that goal. And it should be also about the timeline, and later on we come with investments. I think that's surely that what I can inform. And what are the challenges also is not only moving the capital city, but also need to be consider about the remaining, like Jakarta. What happened with the next Jakarta after the capital city move to the new one? That I think will be more challenging to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iksan. Actually, to your point, we will be discussing that later on. But on that vision, I thought that was a very interesting point. Park Jun, would you like to share your feedback on this?
Yes. Okay. Well, first, this move of the capital and trying to build this Nusantara capital city is a bold move. It is an ambitious, but I think it is a strategic and visionary decision. I think the first thing what we like to do is that, as Julius mentioned, there is also some people doubt about it, some people yes and no and all those things. But the fact it is already passed by Parliament, so it is a law now. What still need to be done is completing all this, installing the whole necessary institutions, and then another regulation related to the implementations, so that it is not confusing in terms of the implementation later on. So, and this also needed basically all this communication, all these plans should be communicated, and also having more stakeholder participation, especially with the people in Kalimantan itself. Okay, now certainly, when we are talking about this one, is include the business, what are the impact of this one. So then in terms of the administrative and process, I think a very important one is also about the land settlement issues on the land, because this is potential to any dispute later on if it is not done properly. So, and then the next one is also because the point mentioned about this green infrastructure, that means there is a master plan is needed, okay, to be finalized, okay, in terms of how to build the city that comply to whatever the vision to become the green city, okay, the most sustainable infrastructure of the world, and so forth. So this one is the one that's needed. The next, I think, is also that now that the head of this authority is already appointed, so what we need is to establish the secretariats, the office, and then so that communication can be done properly, more public participation in this process. That will be taking along, not easy if you don't do it correctly. And then also that the government has been sort of establishing what they call the 8 principles and 24 KPI for this one. And this one should be communicated and should be implemented. And finally, it should be done in participation of everybody. In Indonesia, we call it gotong royong.
Thank you, Park Jun, for that very, very insightful opinion from your side in terms of the top priority. And lastly, but not least, for this first question, Park Andy, open to you.
Yeah. So basically, I agree with those speakers before. We can see from the 3 point of view or 3 level of the observation. I think the first one, if you see last week when President went to Penajam with 34 governors in Indonesia, you saw that he and others, local leaders, was trying to send the message that the capital development has paid serious attention to the forestry and also to the environment. Yeah, maybe if I can share a little bit about this is it already said and said again, the capital Nusantara using concept of the forest city. So again, this is also the ceremony for planting tree. Again, this is a campaign, a public campaign that the government has a serious attention on this forest city concept, and this is also nursery ground for the plantation. Yeah, that's the first point. The second point, we need to know the whole structure of the city, how it can be translated into the spatial planning and also into their master plan, like Pak Junardi mentioned before. So if you see this map, this is the area of
Pak Andy, we can't hear you. I think you muted yourself.
okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now can hear you.
Okay. So if you see this black polygon, the black line, it's the total area 250,000 hectares. Yeah. So if you see the green polygon here, they are trying to connect this into green corridor. Yeah. So again, there are some of the issues, homogeneous forests, yeah, that need to be heterogenized. So then it can become more healthier habitat for the wildlife. They also try to connect the blue space, yeah, river and also the Balikpapan Bay. Yeah. So again, the plan, in the paper, on the paper, we have also the commitment for that. Even 75% was allocated for the forestry and also green open space. But the third point, I think we need to know the monitoring tools, yeah, monitoring and evaluation tools, whether those development for the green concept also touch not only the forest and land use base, or in the climate change term is can be say FOLU, FOLU, forest and land use base, but also the infrastructures. We need to ensure that the infrastructure was built, is going to be built there, has used also the green or even eco principles. Yeah, then I think that's also we are looking for the government to set up the monitoring and evaluation framework to ensure that those vision will be translated into the program and also into the reality. So that's my point of view. Back to you.
Thank you.
Megan.
Thank you, Pak Andy. And that was very also insightful with the image and the visuals that you provided us. But, before we talk about, the future and next steps forward, I always think that we need to look back as well. So Dr. Jessica, to you, before we get into, this development of Nusantara as a smart green city, we will, need to touch on why there is even that need to move from Jakarta. So in your opinion, what are the key lessons that should be taken away from the development of Jakarta and the building of Nusantara as Indonesia's new capital?
Okay. Now it's interesting, yeah. I've lived here almost my whole life, yeah, in Jakarta, yeah, and it is a crowded city. It is ever expanding city. Every time we expand, with the new development, maybe on the suburbs, on the outskirts of Jakarta, maybe we have learned better infrastructure, yeah. But in the central itself, maybe essential infrastructures like wastewater treatment, waste facilities, underground system, or even transit system, that was not in the beginning of master plan, yeah, in Jakarta. It was never envisioned, I think, at that time, I don't know, 300 years ago, approximately. So with that limitation, I think it made it difficult to have an integrated city, of what we aim. In Jakarta itself, it's really hard, like saying that, oh, I want to utilize my wastewater into a sewage pond. Maybe we want to harvest some biogas from the sewage. It's impossible to do that at the moment, and to have that implemented in Jakarta at the moment, you have to, basically remove everything and then build underground. So it was really, it is really impossible to have that. And I think I see Jakarta development, in the past was like an ad hoc, yeah, problem raised, we have to fix it quickly. It was sometimes emotional changes, because of emotionally, let's say like there was flood, and then people would put another layer on the road to raise the road and the street without actually fixing what's going on with the water flow underneath. So we have some fix several years ago, by the previous governor, but it's not applicable to everything. So we still have a lot of problem with even if we're saying about waste treatment, where should our waste go, is actually outside Jakarta. We don't actually have a landfill, a proper landfill, or a proper within Jakarta itself. It is actually on the other city, or the other province, if I may say. Then hopefully when we have this new capital, we have a large cycle perspective, I would say. We try to think synergically. I would think of it like an industrial symbiosis, where we have integrated wastewater, water, the forest, integrated system for that. So it is a real opportunity for us to have like a clean slate now that we know better, and hopefully we can implement that, as Dr. Iksan actually already mentioned as well, and Pak Junardi also mentioned. The implementation will be somewhat important as well, to make sure that we can deliver, and hopefully learning from what happened in Jakarta, we can identify what kind of risks and what kind of potential opportunities that we can do better in the new capital. I think and another thing as well, maybe this will be related, like the people itself, how this is going to be a huge transition for the people in Jakarta, and we are at the moment maybe partly individualistic. I think we are going to go that way because of a metropolitan city. I don't know whether that would be something will happen as well in the new in the new capital. Looking at it socially as well. I think that's my take on the key lessons from Jakarta. Megan.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jessica. I mean, you point out so many good points. I feel like I need to stay on you a little bit longer, but let's move on. Actually, on that point where you said, we know what went wrong with Jakarta. We have the chance to redevelop a city from scratch again. So I'm going to pass the next question on to Dr. Iksan. With what Dr. Jessica said, and with knowledge as well that our president wants to create a sustainable green city from scratch, but also considering that Indonesia's renewable energy sector currently only provides about 11.5% of national energy, and that the new capital is huge, about 3 times the size of Jakarta, and already building a new capital city will already emit quite a bit of carbon from there. So how possible is it to realize this vision of that sustainable green city, and what needs to be done to get there?
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I discussed this also with the advisory board for the president, because they're asking me how we can develop the new capital city in a sustainable way. So somehow we have a official meeting at that time, and one of the things that is challenging is we need to have, the first thing before we do the implementation is actually we need to have a good conceptual design on that, because every project needs to start with the conceptual design. You put your visions on board, and then you bring all the resource, and then try to make it happen, and then you go to the next phase, basic engineering design, and also go more to details on that. And during your conceptual design, one of the most important things is also how you make your master plan become sustainable. So at least this is how we can learn also from others, from other countries. For example, when they try to move their capital city, like in Brazil and some others, they are following 3 steps, which are more important. So they start with designing the people, how they can work together with the new indigenous people or the community development over there, and also how we can bring the community that not belong to the area and then try to work together with the local community. So that's one thing. And also the other thing is about the culture shock also. That will happen for sure. And this is what also need to be considered for that. And later on, there are several steps after that also for people interaction and so on. And the other one is about the how we can make this can be profitable. And what is missing, I think, in my opinion, that the design of the Jakarta itself has not been designed properly to follow that visions. For example, when you talk about the MRT break-even point is about 40 years. So when you move to the new capital city, let's say in 2030, 25, yeah.
45.
45, yeah, sorry. So 2045. It means that you don't hit the break-even point for the MRT. That also happening with the speed train in from Jakarta to Bandung. That also will reduce their revenue streams and that, right? So the design, the conceptual design between the new capital city and the existing city that will move, they have to move to the new one. It also need to be integrated from the beginning. And the other one that is also important is the planet visions. And then we talk about the sustainability. We talk about the circular economy. We talk about the green technology. We talk about other things that related to reducing the CO2 emissions and so on. But we don't come as a project base. We should have the visions and the program first before we can go to the project level. And this is what we did when we discussed with the advisory team from the presidents. Unfortunately, still some challenging. There are still some challenge to make the same visions for the team itself, right? So we have to come out with the same visions first before we can move forward. And yeah, I think that's also unfortunately a couple of days ago we heard also about the news that SoftBank leave the investment. They pull out the investment from the new capital city Nusantara. That's also one of the challenges that we have to face on. Of course, the investment is not everything, but it's also can also make a challenge when one of the trust investors also pull out from the investment. So there's something need to be improved. Either they are look toward the vision itself, or they have to enhance the strategy and also for the green development on that. Because we are talking about the big investment here. I think it's about, if I'm not wrong, it's at minimum it's about 32 billion US dollar. So it's quite a lot. And this is not including the additional investment that needed for the housing, for the local, the new stuff and so on. So it's not in any development. I would like to emphasize also, of course, you will have a challenging part on environment, social impact, and also the land issues, and also some others, including the energy. But when we are talking about the energy part, and I think one of the beauty of the new capital city is we have a big river over there. We call River Kayan. And I'm also working now. Today is my deadline for submissions to Lemhanas, because Lemhanas appointed 5 people, and from 5, each of us need to bring all the recommendations for the president for G20. And for the renewable energy, they appointed me, and also for the food, there are another persons and also some others. So we had also discussions on not for the specifically for the new capital city, but for the general renewable energy sectors in Indonesia, how we would like to promote and push it forward for Indonesia. And one of the point over there is about how we can secure the green energy and sustainability for the new capital city. And the advantage for capital city also that there is no earthquake over there, which means that in Kalimantan there's no earthquake. It means that we can develop a big opportunity also for the data center. So that's I would like to come later on to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iksan, for that. I think one thing you said was that, we need to have that vision and program first before even going to the project implementation level. So Pak Jun, I'm coming to you next. You are you play a big part in the Indonesia Global Compact Network, and one of its mission is to promote, facilitate, and implement the UN Global Compact principles in Indonesia. So in light of this, what Dr. Iksan had just mentioned, and with the move to Nusantara as well, how will IGCN's priorities and strategies change or shift in light of the planned move to Nusantara? You're on mute, Dr. Pak Jun.
All right. Just to continue what has been said by Jessica and Pak Iksan first, I came to Jakarta for the first time in 1962. Many of you are not born yet. And so I ride bicycle from my hometown city in Malang to Jakarta. Okay, because I was Boy Scout at that time. Then I moved permanently to Jakarta, 1968, during the time where the Governor General Ali Sadikin was the governor. That was at that time Jakarta was the largest, the biggest kampung of the world. That's what he said, right? And therefore, he even started with our casino and all the controversial movement to create Jakarta into metropolitan city. So that was a time, 68, 76, and 70, 71. It's a place where basically Jakarta started waking up and trying to be what they call the metropolitan cities. Okay, but there is no really long-term vision in terms of the space architecture and space spatial design for this one. A lot of city in Indonesia is like that. One city, I just quote, one city in Sumatra, they call it 1,000 shop house. And they are proud of this 1,000 shop house, Ruko they call it. The city has no characters. There is no culture characters. Basically, the city is just designed like a bunch of shops for the people, for the warung, okay, for the peddler to do it. Okay. And therefore, I just want to emphasize what Pak Iksan mentioned. Very important is this position, strong position, and full commitment of the city architecture, city design, long term, okay, to make it livable, and then also consistently with. Now, this city, the new city here is NCC, Nusantara Capital City, okay, is a movement for 5 stages until 2045, right, from now. So it's years, many years, okay. So it is not something that, next year or something to be moved, okay. It's very gradual and designed from the beginning, from now, okay. And hopefully that design is the green architecture, infrastructure, whatever, consistently developed this year. To try to rework Jakarta is therefore, but I would like to say that it is not by moving the capital, it is not necessary that we are forgetting Jakarta. I think Jakarta will be still growing the center of the business city, while at the same time, you see the intention of the President Jokowi also to develop an area of eastern part of Indonesia. So now back to your question on this, what we are going to do with Global Compact. Certainly, we are looking at this and we're working closely what's going on and what are the developments, and then we will be responding to this development accordingly. But I do not see any change so much about what we are doing is in the Global Compact to mainstream the principles, the 10 principles of Global Compact on the area of the human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption. Okay, we are not going to have a change in terms of our focus items in Global Compact now. I have what we call 5 thematic SDG focus related to the human rights. Okay, I call it business for peace, human rights, women rights, children rights, disabilities, and so forth. And then also empowering women for the better jobs. Okay, another thing is also to a better environment, which relates to the climate, water, and then sustainable fashion, sustainable ocean. This year we will study that. And then business ethics. And also the last time is education. So this will be, the priority may change based on whatever it is now. Like today with the G20, nowadays the world is talking about this climate. Okay, and I think we are talking about the climate too. Okay, carbon emission and so forth. That means we are talking about the pollution, water pollution, ocean pollution, fashion pollution. Fashion is one of the most polluted industry too. Because women are only wearing once and then buy another clothes. Now, so that one is not changed. Now, there is one thing that I would like to propose. Okay, as a new thing that come up. And it has been in our vision and plan many years. And that is Pak Hiksan. Okay, and you can help also. I would like to propose Indonesia to change the time zone. Now we have a 3 time zone. Okay, the western part of Indonesia, and then Indonesia Barat, Indonesia Tengah. Okay, the middle part and the east part. Okay, geographically, I mean, the time zone is no longer only just geographic. It is a geographical reason, geopolitics, economy, and so forth. Okay, so how come that Jakarta is GMT +7, Singapore is GMT +8? Okay, and Bangkok GMT +7, and then Hong Kong is +. So what we are going to do is that now, one more thing, Jakarta is GMT +7. The new capital is GMT +8. You see? So I think the whole process now, we have to think about it, and it's time for me. I proposed that during the previous president. I'm going to propose again to this one. Jakarta, Indonesia should change to become only 1 time zone, and adopting the time zone the same with Singapore and Bali.
Tripa, like Malaysia also, right?
And Malaysia, good for tourism, good for this stock exchange things. Okay, Singapore open, we open. Okay, rather than Singapore open first and then we are dictated by Singapore. And then good for security, good for these airlines. Okay, we have done the whole exercise for this one. Okay, and we have been discussing later on with this also the staff of this presidential staff also. So one is the one that we are going to pursue in addition to all other things that has been discussed. Talking about SDG is, and we are talking about the sustainable cities, consumption and productions, and then SDG 13, 14, 15 related to the climate, land, life on land, life on water, and then later on one important one is SDG 16, which is 17, which is partnership for everybody. So that one is basically what we are trying to do in Global Compact.
Thank you so much, Park Jun, on that. We never thought that time zone could be such an issue, but maybe that's a different conversation for another day. I'm going to go to Park Andy next. From the environment perspective, we know that there's a lot of concern from environmentalists that the move will have, negative impacts on Kalimantan's rainforest and all that biodiversity that's within the rainforest as well. So, as an advocate of sustainable urban planning, how can the developers, ensure that minimal damage is done to the environment while building a new city, and then thereafter as well in the development of the city as a green hub?
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult question for me, but from what I saw and what have been seeing during the process of the moving capital now planning the city, I think the government, again, like I said, really consider, but maybe the issues is number one is about what do you call with the land proportion, and it's already announced and under the law, of the moving capital is become 75 and 25%. So at the first tier is a good initiative. It's a good spirit to protect the forest. And then the first stage of development is trying to recover the reduce or the destructive one. Yes? So we have also mining's permit. There are so many, and also the timbers. it should be restored. Yeah, I think we need to ensure that the restorative economic will play a major role in the city. But what I'm worried is about the buzzwords. Yeah, we have already certain indicators that pro to the sustainability, but maybe the key issues and homework is about the implementation. Because if we see many Indonesian cities such as Jakarta, for example, the environment usually plays should be placed as the cost center. We need to change the mindset. The environment, we care about environment is also some sectors that can create economic, that we call conservation economic, for example. So the city need to reflect. Yeah. We don't need the big size of the city. We don't need to make 3 million, 5 million population of the cities to make our citizen wealthier. But we ensure that our citizen inside really can access the job, really can also make a social interaction among them. So as a urban professional who look from the outside of the process, I think let's give time and space for the authority leaders, Pak Bambang and Pak Doni, because I think in the next month they will get the master plan under the law of presidential regulation. So from there we can also make an input and support, yeah, whether this is also something that rationalistic, so it's become a rational plan, or we need to advise there are some of the improvement, because in my understanding, green investment is something that we are trying to engage, yeah? But it's not easy to make them come if I think, again, we don't show or we don't demonstrate our seriousness in making the procedures and the implementation properly. One thing that I can ensure is that the government has already also created that they call social and environmental safeguard. So if someone want to build infrastructures, that they need to follow that kind of the safeguard. Yeah. But again, let's see in the next 2 months and next year how the business process take place, and we can discuss later on again. At this moment, I just want to show that there are some preparations that to ensure the sustainable development take place. But again, it's still just on the paper. The most important thing how this Bambang and Pak Doni can organize a team that can ensure that these criteria, this principle, the standard really take considered in the process. Yeah. So back to you,
Thank
Megan.
you for that, Baide. But yeah, you brought up really good points on, the conservation economy, putting in place social and environmental safeguards, and also making the preparations for sustainable development in Nusantara. But once again, taking a little bit of a step back, Dr. Jessica, with the move to Nusantara and, with all the, I guess, the focus as well, being focused in Nusantara with regards to its sustainable development, how do you think the move there would affect Jakarta and all the problems that it already has right now? And the possible reparation plans that are already in place?
Interesting. With the movement of a lot of people, I heard it's going to be in a proxy of millions to the new capital. Then it will definitely take a lot of burden off from Jakarta. Yeah, for example, maybe air pollution can be better, from the less transport. I don't know if the traffic is going to be better. The COVID maybe have that already sorted out with people not moving very frequently nowadays. But in another part, like for example, the issue of Jakarta sinking, let's say, with the movement or the migration of people out from Jakarta, I think sinking can still be an issue because at the moment it's all concrete in Jakarta. And we still need that, either water infiltration system or green areas or whatever it is to make sure that the water actually goes down to the ground. So we will not be sinking. But at the moment, it's really difficult. It's a bit tricky for this one. Yeah, like houses. We have a lot of houses here, not many space. The infiltration system is not really implemented, so I don't know how it will be done. In past few years, because of the flood, we developed some infiltration system to return back the water to the ground. Yeah, I think it must have helped, but I don't know how much it has helped because at the moment, even the whole Java, I think it's still red area if you see from the water scarcity level. So I don't know whether the movement of people can solve this problem, and also like. I think from the biggest effect would be on the business side. I know Pak Jun already mentioned that even though people leave, I think we will still be a metropolitan city. Yeah, but with many or millions are going out, maybe we will suffer some sort of economic impact at that time, even though it's in a transition. Because at the moment, in Jakarta, we are leveraging on the number of people. It's very easy. Like, okay, I want to, get some groceries. I just, open up the apps and then in 20 minutes people will come in, and that's because the power of the people, how many people are in Jakarta. So I think one of the things that we should anticipate in addition to the environment, which I don't know whether it can be improved, but that would be the economic. Yeah. Even though I think I see Jakarta is just like New York maybe, or Sydney. We may not be a capital, but it surely is a vibrant metropolitan. Yeah, I think that would be the I don't know, pros and cons for Jakarta. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Dr. Jessica, for that. There are 2 points I really want to get to, which is one, you touched on people, and the second, you touched on corporates as well. So I'm going to go to actually Pak Jun first in terms of the corporate perspective, because I know that you wear the hat also of of your roles in various corporations. So what do you think are the key challenges for corporates in working through this move to Nusantara? What are the hurdles to setting up shop there sustainably from scratch?
Well, first from the business point of view, business is going on, right? Okay, whether you are in a hotel, you are in the business, whether you are doing all of this hospitality, restaurant, mining, I think everything is going on. The only thing that with this moment that we need to look at is something like, for example, we need to have a smooth communications between the private sector business and the government ministries, especially during this transition period. Okay. Because now the whole ministries, the whole center of the approval is basically in Jakarta. But of course, some of the approval now reside in the province and in the cities over there. But there's a lot of things, the business approval, business dispositions, whatever is with ministries, either it's a mining or whatever is in Jakarta. So now with the ministry move to NCC, Nusantara Capital City, then there is a need for do a transition for this one, okay? Because I didn't want, you cannot approve it because we are in the movement over there. The boss is not here, and all those things, right? So the communication is becoming important, and therefore, I think we are looking for anticipating there should be some delay in the process because of these people are busy with this setup of the moment related to business operation, which require these approval things. Okay. So this one is important from the business point of view. The other, I would like to consider the positive thing is that, okay, the new capital city is surrounded by two big cities, Samarinda and Balikpapan. Okay, I think these two places become another new developing city. I don't know whether it's called mega city or not, but this one, Kalimantan and surrounding will be there. Then it moves to Sulawesi, it moves to Ambon, it moves to Papua, and so on. And with as you know that usually we have what we call these economic and development gaps between the western part of Indonesia, Sumatra, Java, right, and the eastern part of Indonesia, which is Moluccas, Nusantara, Papua, and so forth. But we need to remember, in addition to the economic gap, there is also what we call the information gap between Jakarta and Papua, which have a 3 hours different. There is an infrastructure gap, communication gap, and this is the reason why the eastern part is behind. Okay, not only economy, the culture, the educations, the informations. 9 o'clock prime time here, people already sleep over there at 12 o'clock. Yeah, this kind of things. So now the business, I would like to see, the local business in Kalimantan will be moving up. The people in Jakarta, whatever, the business is looking everywhere, that opportunity is there. So therefore, the business from Surabaya, the business people from this corporation, Jakarta, they will also take a look at that over there. Okay. So this one is basically that like shifting some of the burden and activity from Jakarta, from Surabaya to over there, because shall I choose to develop something in Bogor? Oh, no. I think there is another opportunity in Balikpapan. So I move to Balikpapan, create a business over there, create the jobs over there, right? But maybe I'm still in Japan. There could be some people, students, employees moving because of the growth in over there. Okay, but still Jakarta is still the big one. Remember this, okay, Mika, if you drive from Jakarta up to the eastern part of Java, up to say Banyuwangi, this is a city, village city, no empty space. Okay. Yeah. So, and therefore, like Jessica mentioned, now having this move at the same time also need to restore the environment issues in Java, not only Jakarta. Okay. The water scarcity is, okay, now is typhoon is coming, right? Drought, floods, okay, and then create poverty, okay, and all those things. So it's a lot of work still to be done in Java while we are developing the new city with the new architecture, the new designs over there in NCC. Yeah. So, and this one, a lot of this one, the corporation can play a lot. Okay, in the what we call the private-public partnerships that also being promoted now with the government in Jakarta, how to create all of this development using these schemes of PPP.
Thank you for that, Pak Jun. Again, all very interesting points. I wish we had more time to kind of go on that for a little bit longer, but I really wanted to touch on the social kind of effects of things. And actually, Robin also put a question here. So I'm going to try to rephrase this question and also kind of combine it with the question that I already had for Dr. Iksan. So, considering that the new capital, is located in areas already previously managed by plantation, mining concession holders, how do you think then the growth of Nusantara will impact the lives of, communities already living there, the indigenous communities as well? I think Robin also refers to the free, prior, and informed consent principles. So, with that, do you think that these local indigenous communities will be able to, coexist with the development that's going on? And, if not, how would they be using, and will they be using, these free, prior, informed consent principles to protect the rights of, these indigenous communities?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to show you This is just an example how we design the project in the sustainable way from starting from the scratch. We have to consider about this what we call the spider web. This design is actually really made for the Amsterdam, so it's already implemented in Amsterdam. And why I choose this, because I used to work with the Dutch embassy before, but this is not about the Dutch. This is how, but they call it sustainability. So whenever you start to design the conceptual design, and then you should be able to put the priority of the things. So from the profit priority, and then the people and the planet. And then each of them, you put the top priority, and then you see your in your spider web from which direction you will go. So this is what I think that is what is missing during the conceptual design of Indonesia when they start to make the sustainable design. The second one, don't get me wrong, I always support that we have to move. That's for sure. We have to move from Jakarta. That's for sure. But how we would like to move and how we would like to design the new capital city, that's another way. Because we cannot just move because we have Jakarta has a flood problem, everything, and got sinking, and then we move to the new capital city and we create the same problem, right? What happened after 40 years when we are in Kalimantan? It will impact all the community. We'll come back to your question later on. It will impact all the community, and also the challenge will be there. I'm also involved in one important project now in North Kalimantan, for example. It is a post-mining project for the coal site. So I understand it is near to Malinau, about 2 hours from Malinau. Malinau is also a capital of the province that just moved. They expanded to North Kalimantan because it used to be one together with East Kalimantan. And what happened with the new Malinau city? It is just like in the middle of the jungle, you have a concrete building that's really challenging to see it because I was there with what we call sustainable architecture. That's different than the conventional architect. So I was there with Yori Antar. I was there with Rumaintara. These guys are really sustainable agriculture that I learned a lot from them. So the first thing when we design, for example, on the backside of me is roughly the design that we would like to do for the capital city of Nusantara. This is at least what we have been talking a lot. Of course, this is not official one yet, but roughly it will be like that. If this is the real design that we will promote to the new capital city, you can see there is no local wisdom on that. So where is the Kalimantan culture? Yes. The Kalimantan culture is not there yet. So there is no the root of Kalimantan over there. And you can imagine all of this like steel, concrete, everything. You bring it from overseas, not from the other island, right? You bring it from overseas, of course, because some of them is imported. And then you can see all the traffics. When you calculate it back, the carbon emissions is going up. You try to make the sustainable city, but at the end, you're moving too much, or you have transportations, materials, and so on. And then you maybe in 1 year you already extend the CO2 emissions that should be able for Jakarta maybe in 5 years, because it's a massive development, right? And I also doesn't see that for example, for the post-mining sectors, there is no strict regulation from the government at this moment to provide with a better concept of the post-mining. What they do now, they normally choose for the conventional one, they put additional forestry and that's it. So what we would like to do is we also would like to bring the local wisdom for the new post-mining, which is, for example, that the local community at Dayak, Kenya, in North Kalimantan, they're very familiar with a lot of things. And now they also do batik, for example. Batik is one like I wear today. It's like in the national tradition also. There's also in Malaysia, I heard. And what is strange for me, the coloring, they bring it also from Java. And when we talk with the local community, why you don't do the coloring by yourself? you have the forest, you have a lot of source that you can do your own coloring, and it doesn't stay there. They still buy from Java. So what you can imagine that if we can bring the this expertise, knowledge, and everything to be able to do the post mining also, that will create another value that we don't just covering back all the forest over there, but we also bring the new we call it the new peradaban, so the new culture that civilizations for the city itself. So it's totally different mindset. When you see the back side of me, all of them is concrete, right? So you can imagine, because I know a lot of project for construction. So you have a lot of trailers. You have a lot of open land because the access is not. You cannot turn on your trailer and everything. You, of course, later on you can put the tree over there. But why you don't choose the local material to be able to construct over there? So this is what we call structuring. Make a concept of the materials in a sustainable way. So try to reduce and use a lot for the local materials to be able to use for your new capital. That's one thing. Secondly, come back to your questions regarding the commodity. And I think there's also some challenge, like you put a very exotic, very modern type of a building. And what happened with the space for the community? The public space is the most important for the local community, right? So you have to create the space where they be able to work, they be able to integrate with the new design. So when we talk about the design, not only for the building itself, so that's totally different. I used to work with Bappenas, so I know what is IFC performance standard because I have 200 projects that working for IFC performance standard. But in the IFC performance standard, does it explain about how we can put the conceptualism visions from the beginning? So it's missing what is in the IFC performance standard. And when we talk about the SDG, it's more complete. Of course, you have 17 SDGs that can follow, but SDG is also need to be implemented in the design from the beginning, not just like a topping on the like a pizza. You need to really integrate the design and at the SDG part. So yeah, that's what my expectations, because we don't know what happened after 2045 when it's tried its official launch, and 40 years after that we have the same problem like Jakarta. So we have to try to avoid that, and this is our challenge and our chance. Why? Because we start the design from the scratch. That's totally different. Like Pak Junadi said, that when we try to develop Jakarta from the beginning, and when the old time, when the Dutch structuring the canal and everything, that's totally different what we have now. And then the city grows very fast, even faster than the design and the urban planning itself. And then suddenly, it's also impact on the community that nearby live over there. When you talk about the community challenge, also like for example, there is in Muara Baru, there is a what we call gang electro. There is a name of gang electro. Maybe you heard about that also, the issue about that. So they have been there was a bit disaster in the past. There's a lot of fire and everything that people try to move from that area, and then suddenly the governor at the time built the new locations for the local community, and then the other governor and they try to push also for the community. So I try to avoid the same thing what happening in Kalimantan later on. So we don't say that we creating the new innovations and inventions and the design for the local community, but this is something like you are from like extraterrestrial guy coming to Kalimantan, and then you put everything there, and then the local community, what is the role for local community in this design? So it's not been discussed. So that's why I see that the challenge. And the second one that I would like to put emphasis also about the mining side, about the forestry and everything should be able to start from now. When we design the city like this, we are not talking about only in East Kalimantan part, not only in Pasar, but also the whole Kalimantan will be impacted. What happened with the airport? The airport will be different than now, of course, because even with the current airport, it's already quite high traffic from Bontang, everything that's for the flying. So what happened if you bring additional people and then worker to start this construction? That's really crowded. And where is the airport? And that's also another question. And where's the port? Where's the new port? How it can be built? Is it a sustainable way or not? So that's a part of my question that's still puzzling me. And yeah, I really hope that what Henricus mentioned, that the design will come out with the new sustainable way. But please be aware, IFC performance standard doesn't mention about the material, doesn't mention about the design, doesn't mention about the community that should be integrated. I know that there is IFC performance standard number 8, for example, and there is a 7 and so on. But integrating in the design is another way. So that's I think one of the questions of myself also, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iksan. I feel that you've given so much information that has been, obviously very thought-provoking as well. I wanted to remind everyone as well, do put in your questions in the chat box, and also to the speakers, we will not have time to cover all the questions that I put out there. So if you want to reply directly to anyone who you think can respond to, please go ahead. But I'm going to just actually open the floor to Dr. Jessica. I'm not sure if you had any kind of, I guess, also feedback on what Dr. Iksan said, in terms of, the design of the city, in terms of as well, I don't know, the circular economy side of things as well. How can we, put this, how can we also imbibe this into development of the city, learning from Jakarta, and Jakarta's kind of lessons learned, mistakes learned as well from this entire process?
I think maybe just to add on a bit, yeah. Within the planning, we need to really measure, how, because when we say like, okay, maybe we're targeting net zero, how can we achieve that, for example, for this new new capital? So we need to have everything interconnected. If possible, smart city is not only about having the data, but how are we going to use the data? What kind of analytics that we're going to put into to make sure that it is there? Because data by itself, but nobody is doing anything with the data, then it's useless. So we need to do something about it, maybe in the design phase, to measure how it is. I see the capital is like an integrated industrial symbiosis, if I may say, or following industrial ecology, to make sure that everything has its purpose, and there is something that will consume whatever we are, emitting, or whatever the results of our activities, whether it's managing it or treating it, have a circular system and things like that. And it is important to see that the type of soil in Kalimantan is quite different. It's not, so we have to anticipate that kind of land, the type of soil, and also how we can, I don't know, maybe this is already within the design, including agroforestry in there. So it's not only forests, it's not only big trees, but we cannot make any capital for it. So it's like how we can make money as well from that the forest. So that's why the agroforestry concept. So I think that would be something that we can consider. I don't know whether it is already considered or not, and hopefully we can pull it off. Yeah, that's the big if. Yeah, we can implement it. So that's the work from everyone lah. But June already mentioned collaboration between private, between public, academics as well. Everyone, like this is what we should do together lah.
I agree with you. Thank you for that, Dr. Jessica. I wanted to go to a point that was raised earlier by Park Jun on, businesses also kind of starting to, moving there in time. I know that Jakarta will still remain the economic city as well, but, with businesses moving over there, obviously for it to be that sustainable smart city, smart city programs will have to start being developed from scratch as well. So I'm going to go to you, Park Andy, on this. There's that notion that smart city programs, focus only on the wealthy and marginalize the less well-off because, they neglect environmental sustainability and also social inclusivity as well. This is due to the idea that, digitalization, ultra efficiency through technological means demands that well-educated and well-to-do population as well to actually use these programs and also develop these programs as well. I wanted to ask what your thoughts were on this view and, what is needed to ensure that Nusantara doesn't fall into this potential smart city pitfall.
Okay, I remember when the President Jokowi said keynotes in our IAP 50th anniversary last year. The words like this. So the smart city is not brought to bring new technology only, but should be fit to the people needs. So that's, I think, my interpretation is that smart city is only a tool, an approach, to get what we want our city have: sustainability, resiliency, inclusiveness, and so on, right? So when I think why he chose, or he selected Pak Doni, because Pak Doni he was a director at one of the new township city in metropolitan Jakarta. I think because the new town has shown that through the digital advance technology, they can manage more efficient organization, especially in make a safety and security at the city, and can also, I think, have more energy consumption, at the example of the city. But of course, the capital cannot or couldn't select the tenants, or the citizen, because in the new township that developed by private sector, the tenants are the one who has wage or can pay it, the hypothec or the credits for the house, but for the new capital or the new town that made by the government, the low income groups should also has the rights to the city. So again, the technology, digital technology, should be used properly and by the needs of the capital itself. So in that, again, in that level of the concept, I think what the government has announced to the public, we are on the track. But the biggest homework and the challenges in the planning level, and of course in the programming and financing level, we still have major issues here. For example, if you want to bring the smart one, to which extent that the smart city do you want, the smart technology that you want to bring to the capital? Is it really the autonomous vehicle should be brought in the next 5 years? or for example, air taxi now become one of the transportation in the most dense city in the world, for example. But the new capital, I think, starting from the small one, maybe around 100,000 and become more. Yeah. So again, the programming will play a significant role to ensure that this sustainable city can be developed properly. One of my strong point before, yeah, because we advise or give inputs to the capital since 2019. Yes. So I know from time to time the government try to improve the public communication. I think the worst one or the weakness is the public communication. So public has not been engaged widely. Yeah. So that's I think the major challenges. So when you want to convince the investors, the private sector, you need to open the blueprint of the city. Yeah? So then people know how to which location and how they can invest. But what can I ensure is that the government has already the social and environmental safeguard to planning level, to the implementation and to controlling level. But these tools should be operated by the authority board, yeah, and the authority board still has 2 months to manage the structure or organization, recruiting people, and so on. So it's this not the right time for us to assess. We just only have time to give inputs, yeah, and I think Pak Bambang is the person who also in the inauguration time, he mentioned that this is also a social city that has a emphasis on the participation of the public. And I think one of the result of the seminar, for example, can be make a keynotes, and we can also give an input to the authority. Yeah. So that's my point. So again, the government has safeguard, has do don'ts, which area that should not be exploitative, should be restored. They have already. This is an example that maybe I can show to the public. Yeah, like this. So we know wildlife habitats. This surrounding of the capital we know already. And then, like I said before, we also have a green corridor. But again, this is still at the planning level, and we need more time to what I can say, to really to narrow down. Yeah, and they have also prepared net follow-sing. Yeah, net follow-sing means net forest and land use base. Now we are under prepared by the Ministry of Environment of Indonesia. Yeah, so they have baseline of the carbon storage there. Although we know, yeah, this is a industrial forest, yeah, so it's very low in the storage of carbon. But they want to heterogenize and they want to make restoration for that. We can have more on mangrove plantation in the Balikpapan Bay. And we also have, I think, less than 10% of the forest, yeah, but not the plantation forest. And also in my notes, we also have plan to do energy transition. How then we can use the water power plant, and then we also try to use the solar panel they have already planned. And I think again, the financing strategy and how to bring the green investment, that I think eco business should also help the government to connect. Yeah. Back to you,
Yes, so
Megan.
we are here to support. Thank you so much, Park Andy, for that. I'm going to actually just pose one more question to Park Jun, and then I'm going to wrap up from there. I know it's getting a bit late and people are a bit tired, but hang in there, everyone. Just one more to Park Jun, actually. First, I guess if you want to comment on what Park Andy said, and Dr. Jessica and Dr. Iksan as well earlier, please feel free as well. But I guess also from what was said, public-private partnerships play a huge role in the development of Nusantara as a sustainable city. What are your thoughts on this, and how do you envision that public-private partnerships, playing out in a mid to long term in the development of the city?
Yeah. Okay. We are talking about 3 P's. The first P is public-private partnership. Another 3 P is what Iksan mentioned: people, planet, profit. Right. Okay. So the people, planet, profit is basically the basics of these sustainable developments, where we need to have a balance of the development between the economy, people, business, profit, and also environmental friendly, and then also for societies. SDG now cover 5 Ps. If you have 17 SDG, it is basically 5 Ps. People, still no change. Private become prosperity. Is us, not me, right? Prosperity for people, for all. And then planet is still planet. Another 2 factors that are very important to get it done. The 4th P is peace. The 5th P is partnership. Okay. Which means saying that all of these things now is no longer everybody doing separately, individually, in government silo, but should be together. And in order to do that, then you have to make sure that's inclusive, peace, and then also with the proper, transparent, and inclusive governance as well. So that one is that now the 3 P become 5 Ps. Okay, a lot of discussion about this, what is expected as a design, which is something very interesting. Then as a public, we need to also submit that and so forth. I just want to mention here about this. Actually, there is a basic, it's a grand design has been set up over there in terms of how to do things later on to follow this, assuming that this is the basic. For example, from 256 K hectares, okay, the design is saying that 75% should be a green space, whereby 65% will be protected area and 10% will be for food production area. So it's already decided that way. Okay. Take example related to low carbon emission. The installation of renewable energy capacity will meet 100% of this energy needs. So that means basically what they are saying, that 100% should be renewable energy for that cities, for that NCC things. Saying that also 60% energy saving for energy conservation in buildings. Net zero emission in 2045 in the area of 256K. This is consistent with the outlook of the SDG for Indonesia for the zero carbon emission also at the same time. Okay, so it's a lot of this design basic and in mind that to be achieved in terms of development of the city, that later on the architects, the designer, the space should try to follow this, how to develop gradually into a 100% renewable energy, there's all of this thing. And now, having said so, then it's become again once more talking about public-private partnership. It is a lot of opportunities. Okay, this is a millions of billion of dollars for the installation. Opportunity for people, for multi-sectors working together. Opportunity for global investment, green investment. Opportunity for the business working together with the government in order to achieve this. And this is again from the business point of view. Okay, we look at it as a business. One more item from Pak Iksan and also Pak Andi, very important one. Okay, what we need to remember and not to forget is the issue on the indigenous rights. It is already in the law. Number 2 is also, okay, and this is what we are talking about the business point of view. You guys, especially the people coming from outside also, remember every place here, there is always a local wisdom that you would like to look at it. Okay, so do not just import something from outside okay, without considering there are local wisdoms, okay, that actually are very good to follow. And that one is one creating peace for the people over there. Okay. So this one is, I think, a lot of this is a process that has been, that may continue. Okay, this will take years to do this. Okay, and then as a private sector, I would say that maybe it is our duty is also to look at it, participating, like Pak Andi, Pak Iksan proposing this, proposing that. And this kind of meeting is also talking about what kind of things that we need to consider, what kind of things that become aspiration for the government and so forth. So it's a long way to do. Okay, it is something like to be finished by 2045. Okay, hopefully this is 100 years of the Indonesian independence, where at the time, okay, hopefully that the country become number 5 in the world.
Thank you so much, Park Jun, for that. And that's such a nice way to end off as well. We've come to about 4 minutes before 6 p.m. So thank you again, everyone, for contributing such thought-provoking questions to our speakers. Before we run off our discussion today, I really want to just pose one final question to all speakers. We're talking about vision, we're talking about planning, we're talking about implementation. So we know that the move is scheduled to be complete in 2045. If you had a crystal ball with you right now, what are 3 words you would use to describe your vision of Nusantara in 2045? And also, just because time is running a little bit short, I'm going to give 30 seconds for everyone to just give 3 words, okay? All right, I'm going to go to Dr. Jessica now.
Okay, 3 words, 30 seconds. I think it's integrated, inclusive, and vibrant. Integrated, where everything is interconnected, whether it's the industry, the environment, and also the social, the inclusivity of it, respecting the locals in there, of course, and also vibrant, is to bring economic growth for the local as well. And I think that is something that is already in mind from our great leaders, that we want to bring something as well to the people in Kalimantan as well, to bring more economic in there. So I think those 3 are the key from my perspective: integrated, inclusive, and vibrant.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jessica. And going to Park Jun.
Okay, well, I endorse what Jessica said. Okay, my 3 words will be: number 1 is leadership, number 2 is commitment, number 3 is cooperation.
Very, very good words. Thank you so much, Park Jun. And Dr. Iksan.
Yeah, for me, it's difficult to have 3. I will give you 6 then. Environmental sustainability, economic growth, and also the social equity. So that's the most important. And together, they call it circular economy. Thank you.
That's a very good one. Thank you so much, Dr. Iksan. And finally, last but not least, Pak Andy.
I'm in the difficult position. Those 3 has already mentioned all. But maybe one, I think we need to do restorative economic. It's should be the example. The capital become the example of that. The second one, digital city like metaverse. It's something that I can imagine by 2045. I hope I'm still there by 2045. And then the last one, of course, urban-rural linkage. So I think the city in the future not being impressed like represented by the buildings, high-rise building, but maybe something that more greener and also has a plantation, and we can also take foods from our yard, backyard. So that's maybe something that in my quick imagination. So back to you, Megan.
Thank you so much, Park Andy. And with that, thank you so much again, speakers, Dr. Jessica, Park Jun, Dr. Iksan, and Park Andy as well for joining our panel discussion today. Before I pass the remaining time back to Ruba, I'd like to invite our speakers to take a really quick photo. Benjamin is right there standing by already. So on the count of 3, 2, 1, all of us smile, and then we'll pass on the time to Ruba, okay? All right, okay, in 3, 2, and 1. All right. Thank you so much again, speakers and the audience as well. I'll now pass the time back to Ruba to close.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you to our panel of distinguished experts for providing us a thoughtful discussion that's on what's needed to realize the concept of Nusantara being a smart green hub. Now, the audience, before you leave, please do spend a few minutes to give us some feedback on this event via the link that will be provided in the chat box. And don't forget to use our hashtags if you are sharing your thoughts on this event via your social network. We talked about the risks, the opportunities, the challenges, the stakeholders, right down to soil conditions and even the differences of in the time zone. With the very recent appointment of Bambang Susantono as Nusantara's head of National Capital Authority, the next crucial step, as pointed out by our speakers, is for the Indonesian government to come up with a master plan. This will not only attract the right type of investors and private stakeholders, but also act as a reference point. The standardized vision and strict vision and strict regulations, this will help parties involved in the sustainable development of Nusantara safeguard the environment as well as the interests of the existing local and indigenous communities. I think it's safe to say that if implemented well, Nusantara will be an exemplary model, not just for ASEAN capitals, but on a global scale as well. With that, we have now come to an end of our dialogue. I'd like to once again thank our speakers as well as our audience for making the time to join us today evening. I hope that you found this conversation as enlightening as I did. Have a great evening ahead, and we hope to see you at our next event. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye all. Thank
Thank you,
you again.
Thank you so
See you soon.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye all. Thank you.